Hey, PWZ podcast fans, we are here tonight with another very special guest from the Ring of Honor roster. I'd like to give it up for the big dog himself, Addicted to Love, the newest member of the foundation, Rhett Titus. What's up, Rhett?
What's going on, guys? Thank you for having me on here tonight. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's our honor, trust me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Andy, do you want to start things off? Or do you want me to start things off?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the foundation. Exciting things going on right now. The reboot of Ring of Honor, and you're finding yourself in some pretty good company right now. You were kind of the surprise fourth member. Now, tell us how that came about.
Well, it all goes back a few years ago. Jonathan Gresham pulled me aside, and he's like, "Hey, man, are you happy here?" Like, it was probably like 2017, 2016, something like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy here. I love being here. And he's like, I look at you and I can picture you doing so much more. I look at you, I see Ring of Honor World Champion written all over it. But you're just stuck in this rut. And then he requested to wrestle me at a MCW / Future of Honor show. And we had like a 30-minute match, and that was like he was like, man, like that was really good. I really liked that. And then next thing I know, he starts putting this foundation together, and I was one of the first calls he made. So, it's really cool to have the respect of your peers. But when you have the respect of your peers, and they're, Jonathan Gresham, Jay Lethal, and Tracy Williams, that's a whole nother ball game.
Well, what's it like? You go ahead, Rick.
What's it like working with those guys? Because I've recently only just discovered Tracy Williams, in the last couple months, and I've become pretty quickly a huge fan of his, seeking out other footage that I haven't really seen before. What's it like working with him? And obviously Jay Lethal's been around a very long time. So
yeah, it's cool because me and Hot Sauce, we got the team at Final Battle 2020 in the first ever Pure Rules tag team match. You didn't watch it on the Honor Club, you can go back and watch it, or on Fight TV, the replay's playing. But anywho, we had been in numerous tag teams throughout the years, and we never teamed with each other once, though, but you wouldn't know it from, watching that match that we never even teamed together before, But he, and then Jay Lethal, he's a fellow Jersey boy, so, a lot of respect towards him, too. So it's pretty cool getting to, work out with those guys and that sort of thing too, and they're always constantly trying to one-up each other. So that's another good quality to have, always keeping you on your toes, competitive,
Right.
Well, Rhett, you've always been known for your tag team work, so I'm not shocked that you and Tracy would click easily. That's kind of your forte, or has been up to this point. Are you going to be focusing more on singles action now, or are you going to be forming a team with one of your members of the foundation?
It's whatever gets laid in front of me that day. I would like to give a singles run a good shot, though, because it's something that I never really got a chance to do in Ring of Honor. So I've always been pretty much a tag team wrestler for the whole entire time while I was here. So to just let me go run wild in the singles division or the pure division, TV title division, something like that would be really cool too.
Without a doubt. And I also wanted to comment on the foundation. You've been in Ring of Honor for the better part of 15 years now, correct?
Yes.
And Jay Lethal, being the veteran that he is, and being the leader that he is, it's kind of interesting to see Jonathan Gresham come in and kind of spearhead this whole thing. And is it fair to say he's the absolute leader of this group, or are they equal parts?
We were actually talking about that earlier today, how it's everybody's got to say it's a collection. It's like the pillars of the foundation. We are what's holding this together. So we're going to help each other as much as possible, and one may have an idea for the other, but there's no distinct leader. But it was I would say that John kind of had the idea to put it all together, but he doesn't want to take credit as a leader. All equal parts.
And the word is that you guys really adhere to the code of honor. How important is the code of honor to you, and why is it so important?
the code of honor was something that made me look at wrestling in a completely different light. I went to the first ever Ring of Honor show, February 23rd, 2002. I was probably about like
Wow.
14 years old or something like that. And that was at a point where wrestling was 2002, so ECW and WCW had just went out of business, so wrestling was definitely on the downswing. And, as a kid, you're a teenager, you're finding out this stuff, And then my brother-in-law was like, hey, you want to go to this wrestling show? I was like, I don't know. He's like, Eddie Guerrero and Steve Corino are going to be there. I was like, oh, yeah, all right, cool. They're two of my favorites. So I was like, yeah, let's go. And then, like, I saw, like, the Code of Honor and the guys shaking the hands before and after the match. And, there wasn't no screw finishes. There was no countouts, no disqualifications. Everything was 1, 2, 3, or I give up in the middle of the ring. So that was something that I was like, man, these guys, they look at wrestling like a sport. This is something that I would want to do. And I always wanted to be like a professional wrestler, but like had I not gone to the Ring of Honor show that day, I probably would have never actually pursued it. And so, needless to say, the Code of Honor means a whole lot to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Carino because we're going to get back to Carino in a minute. But fast forward to 2020, and you just had one of the most talked about matches in the wrestling scene. You and Delirious had a pure style match, incredible match. You were down. You had you had all three of your rope breaks. You're given next one you were disqualified, and then you come out and that drop kick just gets him every time, dude.
It's cool because like that was my first ever Pure Rules match. I've watched a bunch of them, back in the day, and even fast forward to present day now too. But that was my first official Pure Rules match, and there's a different strategy that you really got to go in. You got to go in with a strategy and a game plan, and every single person that you wrestle, you're gonna have to come up with a different game plan. So it was really cool wrestling Delirious again because I probably haven't wrestled him in a singles match in about 10 years or so. So it was really cool finally getting that W on him after he had beaten me every other time we had wrestled in the singles.
Right. Do you have anything else, or do you want me to jump in here?
I got plenty, but I don't want to do like I did last night, dude. So
I want to talk about your training. Just doing research for this, I saw that you trained with Austin Aries and Brian Danielson, and I found it interesting that you said you hated training with Brian, but then it helped. But later on, it helped you become a more dedicated wrestler. What at that time period made you hate? Was it just his like an old school style training regimen that he had?
I wasn't in nowhere near the shape I am now. Know, so I remember distinctively every training I would always be late to because I'd be coming from work. So I'd always be late, and I would always have to do extra squats, extra push-ups, all that stuff. And I was like, oh man, this sucks. And I was actually going to make it to practice on time one day. I was like, oh yeah, making on time, no extra squats, and because that would ruin your whole day, But then all of a sudden I hit traffic. I'm like, no. So I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? So I'm like, all right, this is what I'll do. I'll get dressed in the car now so I can hop right out and go right into the training. So I get in all my gear, my knee pads, my boots, everything, and like pull up to the school at like we used to train at like 4:00. So I was like 3:58, 3:59, and I'm like, like running up the steps in there and like roll right into the ring. And Brian's like, wow, you made it on time today. I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right, so we start training, and then all of a sudden, like, Brian just looks like enraged. You're like, oh gosh, like, and he's like, who the hell brought mud into my ring? And I was just like, oh no. And like everybody slowly started looking down at the bottom of their shoes, and like no mud anywhere else. And then I looked down at the bottom of mine, and I was like, oh man. And he's like, ow. So I had to do extra exercises anyways. So, but yeah, that was like training with Brian. But that's stuff you grow to appreciate later in life. Just like little lessons like that, and always having to be punctual and on time and stuff like that. So yeah, but training with Aries was a little bit different because he was like, hey, I'm not your personal trainer. We're not gonna come here and do squats until you puke or anything like that. But um, I'm your wrestling trainer, so that's what you guys are paying me for. So it was pretty cool that obviously I was doing my workouts on my own and all, but yeah, it's pretty cool that he just focused more on the wrestling. Brian, we'd have to do a whole lot of squats. I remember one day he was like, you got to remember, I was probably like 19 or so training with Brian, so he's like, all right, everybody picks an exercise for the day, and he asked me like, which exercise do you want to do today? And I was like, jumping jacks. And he's like, oh, jumping jacks, huh? And then he made us do 10 minutes of jumping jacks in the wrestling ring. And like, there was like 4 of us in the ring. And like, when you're jumping, it's like bouncing, but you all got to be in rhythm though. Like, oh man, what about everybody was cursing me up and down for that one.
Before we get back to any Ring of Honor talk, I just want to say, ask you one other thing. It's in February 2008, you took part in Chikara's King of Trios tournament, teaming with Shane Hagedorn and Alex Payne, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Lascivas Rayados, is that correct? Did I say that right? Don't laugh.
The wrestling goats.
Yeah. What did you think about working Chikara? How did you like it or dislike it?
It was different,
Yeah.
like I had acquired some tapes of Shakara, when I was younger, but wasn't ever really my cup of tea, but as a fan watching, but I understood that like it was popular on the indies, so I was like, all right. And like this wasn't actually my first time at Shakara. My first time at Shakara was actually quite the controversial debut because I unbeknownst to me, Shakara has this big thing about no cursing, and I was like 18 years old and like all revved up, and it was like a 6-man tag. It was me, Pele Primo, and Shane Hagedorn versus the Colony. So Worker Ant and Fire Ant and Soldier Ant, and something was going on in the match, and it came down to me and one of the ants. I was like, "Come on, mother!" But it just came out, and because you wrestle indies, it kind of happens all the time, and a lot of people, but this whole crowd just like, and I was just like, oh man, what did I do? And like, I remember like coming through the curtain, and like my partner's like yelling at me, like, dude, you're gonna get us in so much trouble. Like, I'm like, oh no. Apparently, it was like a big no, and
I think there should be some sort of warning towards the talent for shows like that. Somebody I know, like last summer, got in trouble for flipping the crowd off, and they got reamed like by the bookers like later on. Yeah. So trying.
But that taught me a lesson too, because I wouldn't do that nowadays. If I went and did that on TV or pay-per-view, I'd be getting yelled at and fined and stuff. So everything on your come up teaches you a nice, valuable lesson in the end, right?
Right. Go ahead, Andy.
No, you mentioned Steve Carino before, and I actually. Well, let's go way back, okay? I think it was on Crazy Max forums. I think I traded. I suggested DVDs because I didn't want to sound too old, but you said probably VHS.
But I was a part of that board as well at one point. So
I never had any DVD burning capabilities, so it was all VHS. So, but by the time the DVDs became a big thing, I was done.
But fast forward years later, you came down here to North Carolina, where I live now, and you worked for Steve Carino. I think you came down twice, did you not? Was it one time or twice?
I think I came down one time, but I think another.
I remember
time,
you came down with Will Ferrara and Delirious. And
no, I wasn't with Delirious. It was just me, Will and Berger, but there was another time where Will, Berger,
Ali came
Delirious,
down too.
and Ali, yeah, they went down. But I was only there the one time. But yeah,
So what is
nice little area over there, though.
yeah, it was like in the middle of nowhere, right? It was
Good job, Andy.
literally in the middle of nowhere. But what is your relationship with Steve Carino, and has he been a mentor to you over the years?
Oh yeah, I mean, man, when I first saw Steve Carino come on ECW, I was like, "That's my guy. That's my guy right there." Like, I like what he's doing, and and then like when ECW went under, I was still like, like, oh man, where's Steve Carino going to be? Like, oh, he's going to the high school over here. Like, oh yeah, like, and because often they would come around the loop or whatever, and I would always be like, whenever I see him sign online, I would be like, oh, hey, how are you doing? Like, and, I was probably like 14, 15 around then, and just always bother him, write him these long-ass emails, and just emails that you can't even reply to. They're so long, But, yeah, so needless to say, I was a huge Steve Carino fan growing up. And then, seeing him at Ring of Honor, and then he went away from Ring of Honor, and the time he went away from Ring of Honor, like, that's when I had started working for Ring of Honor, and then all of a sudden he came back, and I was just like, oh, man, Steve Carino's here. Like, oh, that's awesome, And then eventually he got to be my manager when we were doing the whole Scum angle, and that was, like, really cool because, like, he was my favorite growing up, so now he's, cutting promos and managing me to the ring and giving me advice and stuff, so it was very, very cool experience.
And you talked about the Jersey Indies. What were some of the promotions you go to? Did you go to like Coraluzzo shows, or was that too early for you? Or
no, I mean, my indie shows go back to like my first ever ECW show was in 1994 at the ECW arena. So I was like 6 years old, but so
Wow.
I was going to a lot of ECW shows at the arena and stuff like that. But there, just like local, hey, this guy's running a show. The one time I we go to the VHS place, like West Coast Video or whatever, A to Z Video, whatever it was called back in the day, and because you rented wrestling tapes back then, we would trade them eventually, but back in the day you would rent them from the store, before you knew of this message board where you could go on and trade with all these people from all over and get all these different tapes and stuff. But you go rent the videotapes, and the guy working there was like, hey, you like wrestling? I was like, yeah, I love wrestling. He's like, oh, there's going to be a wrestling show at the high school on such and such date. I was like, oh man, really? He's like, yeah, Doink the Clown's going to be there, and there's going to be a Doink lookalike contest. And I was like, what? Like, Doink lookalike contest. And I thought that this was like my way into wrestling. I was like, all right, this is it. Like, this is going to be my big break. I'm going to be the first kid wrestler. Like, I thought like 6 years old I was going to be going on the road. I had to win this contest. So I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, you gotta make me the best costume ever. Like, this is it. And God bless my mom. She made me the best looking Doink costume out of a hot glue gun, and like the hood was like, she like put a white hood and tied it under my chin and attached like Easter grass to it, and like cut out all the shapes and everything. I look just like him. I'm like so nervous, like that I'm not gonna win. And I get to the show, and like I'm looking around for like scouting the competition, and like people just had like clown wigs on, and like maybe one kid had his face paint on, and intermission came, and it was time for them to pick the Doink, and I won the Doink lookalike contest, and Doink brought me up on his shoulders, and then he wrestled Iron Mike Sharp in that match, and
That's awesome.
Doink won, and then I thought like, all right, here we go, and but Doink kind of just went to the next town, and I went back to the second grade.
Please tell me you got photos somewhere, and if you do, please post
Oh.
one. I got to see that.
Oh yeah, I got some photos.
It's been a crazy time this year. In the past year since March, the whole year of 2020 for the most part. We actually talked to Shane Taylor recently, and we discussed, how Ring of Honor and Sinclair Broadcasting as a whole have been handling the whole COVID situation. Any word on that? I mean, would you like to say anything about how they've handled the situation?
I mean, when everything went down, we had a pay-per-view and a television taping scheduled in Vegas, and I remember it was actually my anniversary, my wedding anniversary that we were traveling on to get to the shows, and we got as soon as I landed in Las Vegas, they're like, "Hey, yeah, shows are canceled." I was like, "Damn!" I don't know. I didn't really think that this was all going to be that big of a deal. You always hear them sensationalize things on the news, so you think it's just another thing they're doing. But I didn't think that it'd be, January now and everybody would still be going through all this.
Right.
But, nobody really knew much about the virus at that point. It wasn't like how it is now where people are more educated about it. No one really had any clue about anything, and they didn't force us to wrestle at all through that. They were just like, hey, we're gonna learn more about this and how we can protect everybody and do this in a safe environment. And till then, we're gonna keep paying everybody, and which they didn't have to do, but they did it, and which is really puts a lets you breathe a little bit easier at nighttime, but which is really cool. And then once they learn more about the testing and the contraction rate and all that sort of scientific stuff, they figured out the bubble where the bubble, one of those TV tapings is about 5 times the amount of a normal Ring of Honor television taping. But they want to keep everybody safe and they want to keep it going. So, we get tested 2 weeks prior to the event. Then we get tested prior to the event when we show up, and we're locked in a hotel room. And then we get tested again before the show. And then each match, the canvases are cleaned and changed, and the ropes are wiped down, and we have to wear a mask the whole time. And it's they're really going above and beyond, So I applaud them. They're handling it better than any other company has, in my opinion. So.
Sure sounds like it, that they're handling it better than than a lot of the companies. A lot of it's been exposed as far as the way other companies are handling or have handled it in the past, and it wasn't necessarily the best. There's been some breakouts in other areas. So, Andy, go ahead.
We alluded to it at the beginning of this interview that you've been with the company about 15 years, pretty much your whole career for the most part, give or take a little time. Have you ever thought about going to another company, or have you ever had any offers to go to other companies in the past?
There's always little talks, but I'm happy with Ring of Honor. I'm happy where I'm at. It's a place that I wanted to be. It's what I aspired to do. I was like, oh man, I want to wrestle at Ring of Honor. And that's a place, and it's become a place where guys can have a career here and be happy now. So a lot of guys, the Briscoes, Jay Lethal, so it's and I really, I take pride in Ring of Honor and what it's become over the years, because I remember where it came from, and I remember all the hard work that we put in to get to where it is now. So it's kind of nice to look back and be like, yeah, this place is pretty cool now, So where we could do things and not work for 8-9 months and still be paid, So if you would have told me that 15 years ago, I'd been like, yeah, get going, But it's I've had a great time here.
Now, a few years ago, too, you guys really hit a big boom when you had the Elite there and you had the New Japan deal. Then AEW came along, and a lot of the roster got raided, but they kind of reloaded with guys like PCO and Jonathan Gresham and other guys, and a lot of the luchadors too, Bandito, Roosh. How do you feel about the style change? Kind of a shift towards more of a lucha style, not totally, but a larger degree of lucha in the company now.
It's different, I'll say that much. It's a different change of pace than what was going on before, but right now I think we're trying to change that again and make the pure rules a little bit more of a thing. While during the pandemic, the Lucha guys have pretty much been away from Ring of Honor for the whole time, except for Final Battle. So things change a little bit for them, coming back here. So maybe they have to adapt to this style, So
Right.
trying to bring Ring of Honor back to like the golden days of like your 2005, 2006, where everything was done in the ring and that sort of thing. So make these lucha guys understand the code of honor a little bit better too. So, and I see guys like Roosh and Dragon Lee, and they're not shaking hands before or after the match. It's they're supposed to be like the champs. They're supposed to be representation of the company. So, if you're supposed to be the representation of the company, you should uphold what the company is preaching. So,
Right.
Without a doubt. And you have a well stored history with Kenny King, and the story's been told a million times. But I always wondered, and I do have to ask, when he left, he kind of left suddenly, or at least that was how it was viewed by people on the outside, and he kind of left you hanging there by yourself. Was there any animosity, or were you still friends through that period?
it was one of those things where like he was going to try to take a better opportunity. Like I'm not gonna, be mad at him for trying to better his situation or whatever he was trying to do. Wasn't happy with him by any means and the decision that he made because we had worked so hard to become the tag team champions. So many years, and then finally we get it, and then it's like poof, he's gone. Like oh, and like it was just kind of like at that point like. I had so much invested in like the tag team, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, he's gone, well, what are you gonna do now? And I was just like, shit, like, this kind of like caught me off the blue. I wasn't really expecting any of this, I thought things were, last week I was winning the belt, so, and this week, I gotta come up with something completely new. So,
Right.
it definitely, and to get stripped of the titles too, and it was definitely, it was like when you get to the tip of the roller coaster and then it just comes crashing down, crashing down fast and hard. So,
But it made for a heck of a reunion a few years later, and then things went south between you again. And one of my favorite Ring of Honor moments was the outcome wasn't my favorite, but when you had your match with Kenny and your family was at ringside, that was really awesome, I thought.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that was the Final Battle last year. But he had approached me about possibly coming back to Ring of Honor when things weren't going so well at TNA for him. So I was like, oh, I'll see what the word is, and the word was good. So I was like, hey, yeah, and he came back and we answered the Briscoes Open Challenge live on pay-per-view at All-Star Extravaganza, and we beat the Briscoes on our first night back, and it really felt like we were doing better than ever. Like it was like, man, we're better than we were ever before. But then he went and just kind of like went and did The Bachelor or whatever the hell, some reality dating show, and the producers are like, oh, maybe it'd be good for you in the show if you were on your own. We can't be promoting these other people with you, so and I was just like, all right, cool, Kenny, like do what you gotta do, man. I get it, like whatever's best for Kenny, man. And it's kind of on my own again after that, but yeah, we did get to have that match at Final Battle, and not one of my favorite final battle moments, but it was nice having my wife and kid there.
That was pretty cool. I thought. Again, the outcome wasn't what we had hoped for, but and then you guys also worked with Caprice Coleman. Did you have any cool Caprice stories? Because he's an awesome guy.
Oh yeah, Caprice is funny. We just always trying to one up each other at the gym or something like that. Oh, I didn't see you at the gym this morning, Caprice. Don't be slacking on me now. Just because you're commentator, don't be slacking. But it's funny. His first weekend back with Ring of Honor, because he had wrestled Ring of Honor back in 2004.
The earlier days. Yeah.
Yeah. But he had went to Kuwait and he done all this other stuff, and then he came back in 2010, and I think, and I was one of his matches on his first weekend back, and he cut a promo before the match, and I was like, I'll never forget. He always jokes with me about it because I was like, "Oh, this guy gets mic time now. This guy on his first weekend, he gets mic time." But Caprice is great on the mic, and good for him, man. He's doing the commentary thing now, So, and it's him and Ian make a great team, and Caprice has been doing it for so long, But good for that. I really like having those two call my matches.
And I don't think Caprice ages at all. He doesn't age.
Oh yeah.
And you were talking about working out a little bit. Now I got to ask. We got to get a little personal here. How are your neighbors doing with your outdoor workouts?
So, all right. So, if you guys aren't, if anybody listening isn't familiar, basically when the gym shut down, I was like, what am I gonna do? So I had some dumbbells and stuff. I kind of had a feeling it was gonna be happening though, but I didn't think it was gonna be for this long, because you gotta imagine the gyms were closed in New Jersey from March till September. So, I was like, oh no, and also the other thing is you couldn't buy weights anywhere, you couldn't get anything. I just one day I got lucky and I looked outside my window. I looked at the neighbor's driveway. They were moving out. I guess they had all this workout equipment in the backyard that they were getting rid of. It was like a pull-up bar station, a Smith machine, a bench press. And I was like, oh, So I got all their stuff and brought it over, and I've acquired some new pieces since then. And I'm just out there getting it, rain or shine, Usually wearing about 8 layers of clothes, 4 layers on the bottom, thermal socks, hand warmers, snow boots, the whole 9 yards. But I'm not just out there doing regular ass exercises, I'm doing what I would my normal workouts that I would be doing at the gym, leg lifts and decline leg lifts and hanging leg lifts and all this crazy stuff. And they've been building houses next door this whole time. These really nice houses, finally, people were moving in the other day, and here I am doing deadlifts and squats in my backyard, and they're moving into their brand new house. Like, what? Looking over in the backyard, like, what the hell? And then to give an update on that story, I was doing lunges on my deck today. They just recently got some blinds put in, because for a while they didn't have blinds. So whenever they were sitting on the couch and I was working out on the deck or in the backyard, they would see me. So tonight what happened was I was doing lunges and they're like, oh, let's open the blinds. And he opened the blinds. I was just direct. It was like we made eye contact. And I'm doing and he went to went around and sit back on the couch, but I saw his wife on the couch, and she was kind of motioning him to go back to the window to close the blinds, and went back and closed the blinds. And so yeah, I'm interested in meeting them for the first time though.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah. Rick, you all right over there?
Yeah, my kids are trying to yell at me from down the hallway, so you know. So, anyways,
You don't see the headset on.
that's what I'm trying to say, man.
And you better not edit this out. This better be part of the interview.
No,
right?
I'm leaving it in, definitely,
Okay,
for sure. You know,
Good.
it adds some comedy to the people that do listen. So, you know, I mean, a lot of times I'm going to tell you, Red, and
Oh.
Andy laughs every single time, is that you see my dad walk behind me like every 2, 5, 10 minutes or something like that. At least 3 or 4 times a show that my dad, you'll see the door open behind me. So it's pretty comical. He always breaks out laughing. So.
Now, Rhett, getting back to your workouts, you're in phenomenal shape. Easy for me to say. Best shape of your life. And now Rick had a question he's afraid to ask you, so I'm going to ask it for him. Will we see you doing commentary in your skivvies again?
Hey, even though I'm going a little different direction with the foundation right now, I'm just going to say this. Never say never. You know? So, you know, things may go south with the foundation and just be like, you know what? Caprice took a good route in the commentary. I'm joining him and bring my Speedo along with me.
Do you see commentary as something you'd like to do when you finally get to the point where you just can't do it anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really cool thing to do. You know, even at healthy. You know, like I enjoy doing it whenever I'm given the opportunity to do it. You know, because you always did it playing with your wrestling figures and or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So you just gotta be able to work around other people now too. So
Right.
And if we could just pick on Rick one more time. Rick, could you just unzip your New Japan?
This is purely by coincidence. I didn't realize this today, but hang on. Andy now told me that I have to show you this because my T-shirt underneath.
Danhausen.
oh,
I know you've wrestled him. Any thoughts on Danhausen? He's a little bizarre.
yeah. Well, he's very nice, very evil.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got the teeth jar. Not experience I'm trying to relive again. Interesting character though. But he just signed with Ring of Honor, so hats off to him.
I saw that, so that's pretty good for him. I think he had worked there before. Well, did a couple one-offs or whatever, I think, prior, right? Yeah. So, good for him. He's definitely an interesting fella, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing, too. The Ring of Honor, over the last few years, they seem to be integrating more characters, like a PCO, Danhausen, guys like that. Kind of contrary to the pure wrestling, environment. How do you feel about that?
Personally, I would just like it all to be pure wrestling, because you see enough of all that other stuff on all the other channels.
You're right. Yeah.
But I understand that it's a variety. Different people like different things. One guy may love a Danhausen match, but he may hate a Jonathan Gresham match. I mean, I'd probably like to smack that guy around a little bit and smack some sense into him, but there is a possibility of that. So you gotta have a variety show, different strokes for different folks. So I understand the business behind it.
Something else you want to say about that now, Andy?
No, I'll give you credit.
Andy goes. What's that?
You are a Gresham guy too, so it's not all about you, but you're certainly a Danhausen guy for sure. I don't understand Hausen. I just don't understand Hausen.
It's the thing is with me, it's like I don't normally like comedic wrestlers, but there's a couple guys out there that and sometimes it took me a little bit to get into these guys. You know what I mean? It's like I am definitely more of a pure guy and more of a traditional list when it comes to watching professional wrestling. This is why I watch Ring of Honor, but once in a while it's characters, like certain characters will get me to appreciate them, and it's not many, so but this guy or whoever else. Anyways, and Andy's laughing because he thinks I'm just a big mark for all the gimmicks and stuff, which is not true.
Aren't we all? We're all marks. Rhett, you grew up a mark. You dressed up as Doink the Clown.
Doink the Clown. One of my favorite wrestlers as a kid, like PN News. You know, I used to love when he go up and do the yo baby, yo baby, yo. You know,
Yeah.
so
Wow. Andy, hasn't Andy been in talks with him recently?
I've been in some talks with PN News recently, and that's the second time he's come up on the podcast in the last 2 weeks, I think. So
yeah.
it happened. It's destined. Maybe we could have a dream match. PN News against Rhett Titus.
Hey, sign me up. Sign me up.
11, we got 11 months to build final battles.
So, what do you watch outside? Do you watch wrestling outside of Ring of Honor today at this point? Such as the E or any other. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, sir. Yeah, not Andy. I know what he watches. He's telling me all the time.
I thought you guys were having a conversation.
No. I'm interested to know what you're into, Rhett Titus.
Yeah, I try to watch everything. I watch, Ring of Honor, obviously, WWE,
Right.
AEW, MLW. Been watching a lot of New Japan Strong.
Yeah. That's a great program. That's
Yeah,
really
I like that. I don't get to keep up with as many of the shows with New Japan as I'd like to, but what I don't really enjoy watching current wrestling though. Sometimes I do. But
right.
it's not like my go-to. I just kind of like watching it to just know what's going on, and but I'm really enjoying some Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling right now.
Nice.
I'm on a big binge watch of all that, just tearing through 1982.
Right.
Jack
That's
Briscoe's
awesome.
my guy.
That guy was amazing, man.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to watch these days. Because you're watching this stuff on TV, and you're gonna kind of become that stuff that's on TV, and really what I'm trying to be different than everybody else. So
I hear that.
I think in a lot of ways you're going to come back to that, the old school psychology and the emotional investment in the storylines. You know what I mean? Now it's just like you put two guys out there and they flip flop around for 20 minutes. And no disrespect, because I couldn't do that even if I tried, But it's like, you miss the old school, like Wahoo against Magnum or something. You know what I mean? Like there was such an emotional investment in that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good stuff, man. I'd be curious to see if a lot of current wrestlers these days, if they're told to wrestle an 82 Mid-Atlantic match or something, just be curious to see how that went.
Right.
And I think you guys are going to bring some of that back with the foundation, kind of an updated version of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's hope so, because we're trying to win each title in each division so we can purify each division and make Ring of Honor pure once again.
And I want to ask you real quick, and I hate doing this sometimes, but I got to ask any cool Jay Lethal stories, because Jay Lethal's one of those guys. He's upper echelon in the business, but the world doesn't see him in that light. You know what I mean? He should be up there with He should be up there with the Drew McIntyres, and he should be right there at the top of the list.
Yeah, Jay's the man. He's one of my favorite wrestlers to watch. He's awesome in the ring. This is a funny story. We got picked up at the airport by a shuttle or something. It was me and Jay. I forget where we were going or where we were coming from. We got picked up at the airport by a shuttle, and we were heading to the hotel. And the guy in the shuttle was looking back at him. He's like, "Hey, I know you." And I'm thinking oh yeah, he's probably gonna be oh, Black Machismo, Jay Lethal, And he's like, weren't you on that episode of Family Feud? And Jay's like, as a matter of fact, I was. And I guess TNA did a Family Feud episode or something.
Oh, wow.
And Jay was on it, and I had no idea that he was on Family Feud. I was like, oh, Family Feud, So
Claim that. You can't claim that, dude. That's a big honor, Family Feud. Man.
yeah, hell yeah.
And I'm going to ask you about another Jay, but this time we're going to talk about Jay and Mark Briscoe. Any cool little stories you can tell us about those guys?
Oh man, Briscoes, man. Wow.
I just remember, and you being a Jersey guy, you probably remember when they came up, they were like 14, 16 years old, and they were in like CZW wrestling in singlets, these clean cut little kids.
Yeah.
And now look like they've evolved so much, and they always continue to evolve and change with the times. They're awesome. Probably the most underrated tag team in the business. And we talked about that with Shane Taylor the other night.
Yeah, the Briscoes have had some battle with those boys before. They definitely take you up another level when you get in the ring with them. Because if you don't, you're just gonna get ran over. They're two tough boys. So have a lot of love for Jay and Mark. So
That's awesome. Yeah, they've been around forever, and it's hard to think that it's hard to believe that they're still around.
Oh, there he is.
Did he go by?
Yeah, you missed it. Anyways, go ahead, Andy.
I'm marking out for your dad. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's was this number 4 tonight? Actually, the first for the show. I think he's been by 4 times and talking to you tonight. So, anyways,
maybe he likes the old wrestling.
Yeah, right. I know. No, it was about 2-3 months ago. I was watching something on the big screen TV, and he only wants to watch women's wrestling. So, something came on. He goes, "How come there's no more women on?" I'm like, "Oh, all right, whatever." It's like, I don't remember what I was watching. But yeah, he took me to my first show in 1988, April of 1988, New Haven, Connecticut. That was the first show I ever attended. It was headlined by Randy Savage and Andre the Giant.
Oh.
That made quite the impression. I had been a fan for a number of years, but my first live event is what got me absolutely hooked. So, and that was it. That was a great period for professional wrestling, I think.
Yeah, hopefully wrestling can get back to live events to give other people.
I hope so.
Sometimes it just ain't the same watching it on TV.
I've been to 3 shows, I think, in September when they first started opening up, and then 1 in October. They actually had 3 shows in one day that I went to, and then a 4th in October, and then all of a sudden things started shutting down again. What are you laughing at, Andy?
3 shows in one day. It's pretty ambitious. That's awesome.
Well, they were back to back to back in the same building, so in fairness, I just went to all 3 of them.
Now, Rhett, what part of Jersey are you from? Northern Jersey or Southern Jersey, or in the middle?
I'm on the shore, so I'm more Southern Jersey.
Okay. Because I used to go to a lot of Jersey All Pro shows back in the day, but that was probably too north for you.
Yeah, that was North Jersey, so.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Andy?
No, this is really cool. Again, no pun intended, but it's a real honor to have you. And you like that, right? That was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it was pretty clever. Pretty clever.
I'm really excited for yet another reboot here, and see. I want to make one comparison too. If you ever noticed, like Ring of Honor and TNA both go through reboots constantly. The difference is people never really hated Ring of Honor. So I think Ring of Honor has every chance to rise, from the ashes again, and I think they will. And I'm really excited that they've made these changes to go back to what made them what they were in the first place.
Yeah, it was a reboot that we may have not even noticed that we needed, but given the fact that everything that happened around us and having no crowd there now, you got to kind of change it up a little bit, because I've watched so much of this pandemic wrestling throughout, and I hate the Tron walls, with all the people on it, the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
I find it distracting. You know, even with just like them having the barricades up, you know, they rock. You see the ropes on them and the camera. Don't
Right.
really like it. I like the fact that the Ring of Honor style can take you out of the fact that there's no crowd there. That you just get caught up in the wrestling and don't even think about what's going on around it. And it's because it's always been all about the wrestling that when you remove everything else, the wrestling's still there and it's still great, and people still want to tune in and watch it. So hopefully, people will get used to watching Ring of Honor again. You know, we got those watch parties every Monday night at 7. You can watch for free on Fight, tweet
Yep.
along with the stars of Ring of Honor. So it's a good, fun, interactive time, and you get to watch an hour of wrestling.
Now, when we since you guys came back from the pandemic and everything, you know, the Pure tournament and all this stuff and all the recent episodes, I know we talked about it with Shane Taylor. It's like everything feels like a big fight feel, like going into every match. You know, there's less matches on the show, and then there's like these really great build-ups to the match before each match. You know what I mean? And it's just it makes for a really awesome product. And you know, I've been really enjoying the reboot since coming back from the pandemic.
Yeah, those promos. Our guy who edits those together, Zane, is really good at what he does. He makes every fight feel like a big fight, you know. So that's how it should be, because every fight is a big fight. So
Right.
everyone should feel that way.
Well, Rick, we're at that point now where Rick gets to put himself over, right? He gets to tell us the social media where he could buy his merchandise and everything, right?
Yep.
Go for it, dude.
Follow me on Twitter / Instagram at Rhett Titus ANX. That's RHE
Do we lose him?
ANX. Facebook.com / Rhett Titus. YouTube.com / Rhett Titus. I'm on TikTok at Rhett Titus. Also, ProWrestlingTees.com / Rhett Titus ANX. Or you can go over to the ROH Pro Shop, get yourself a new new Rhett Titus T-shirt on there as well. Yeah, but that's where you'll find me on the social media.
All right, Rhett, thank you very much for joining in. And everybody, don't forget, Monday nights, 7 p.m. On Fight. And make sure you go on the old Twitter machine and tweet along. Thank you.
Yeah,
Rhett,
thank you guys for having me.
Our best to the family. You have a great night, man.
Hey, you too, boys.
Thank you.